We begin by praising Allah Azza wa Jal, Lord of the Alameen, which is mankind, jinn, and everything that exists. And we bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is his slave and his messenger. Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Qur'an, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. O you who believe, fear Allah the fear that He deserves, and die not except in a state of Islam, of absolute submission to Allah Azza wa Jal. SubhanAllah, for a while now, a few issues, a few topics have been coming up, a few problems have been occurring, and it's unbelievable that the way that we deal with these issues, these topics, these problems that occur, making those problems greater, worse, and having a very, very negative impact on our community and even on our society. What do I mean by that? You see, in Islam, we're told to be humble. We're told to have humility between each other and mercy, or else Allah will replace us with people better than us. You see, every single law that Allah Azza wa Jal has ordained has been ordained for a purpose, for an outcome, for a reason, for a goal. Did we know that that goal, that purpose, the outcome that Allah Azza wa Jal wants is unity? Think about it. Bring out what's the number one most highest rewarding action, something that will give you more reward than ibadah itself. Isn't it manners? Why? Because when you have with manners between one another, there's love and there's unity. When someone is bad with me, am I going to love him? Am I going to want to stick around him? Or is that going to cause argument, disputation and disunity? Think about the ahkam of Islam. Why is gambling haram? One person loses and one person wins at the expense of the other. Is that going to cause love or hatred? Wallahi, if it's against my own father, and I've put everything I've made for that week, I know next week I can't pay the rent if I lose. Deep down inside, I'll be wishing my own father would lose. Man, we know people haven't spoken, sons haven't spoken to their father for 20 years over a arba'miyah game that wasn't even for money, wasn't even for gambling. Riba, why is riba haram? One person benefits at the expense of someone else. Not only that, I wish he struggles more and more, because the more he struggles and the more longer he takes to pay me back, the more I make. Riba, hatred, disunity. Man, there were entire countries who revolted against the government of their time because of the oppression of riba. What the government was doing to them, and the taxes and the increase in interest rates they had on their people. All the buyur', the unknown transactions, the old known transactions of the days of the past, we still have some of them today. Well, I'll sell you, if you want to practically apply it to today, if we tell you, I'll sell you this container, whatever's in it, for 10 grand. That container could have 200 grand worth of stuff, and it could have $1,000 worth of stuff. One person wins and the other loses at the expense of each other. That's haram. Husband and wife. Why is it half of the deen completed when a husband and wife are married? Because there's so many rights and responsibilities between them. Why? Because if a husband and wife quarrel, if there's disputation, hatred and enmity and disunity between a husband and wife, man, the family unit is the building block of the whole community, of the whole society, of the whole ummah. If that family unit breaks down, the whole building of the ummah comes crumbling down. The core principle of Islam, the reason why Allah Azza wa Jal has made the majority of what He's made and put in place of halal and haram, is to maintain that unity, that love between one another. So much so that a person who argues with his brother for more than 3 days, his a'mal is not accepted anymore. His a'mal is not accepted anymore, that's it. Go Imagine he lives another 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years after that. All his a'mal stopped. Held ransom. He gets no reward or nothing for it. Till he faces Allah on the Day of Judgment and must be judged between them two. Then, if he was in the right, he'd get his a'mal and the other wouldn't receive it. It's all about unity. It's all about sticking together. There's something that me and you, that this community has been struggling with for a long time, that's destroying this unity, that's destroying this community, that's destroying and making problems worse every time they occur. And that's that disease of pride and arrogance. That disease of pride and arrogance. Someone does something wrong, instead of walking over and advising him, who do you think you are? What do you mean, who do you think you are? What does that mean? What does who do you think you are mean? Is it not implying that you're nothing and I'm something? Like, how dare you do that to me? Do you know what the Prophet ﷺ said? He said, anyone with a grain of pride or arrogance in his heart will not enter Jannah. A grain, a dot of pride or arrogance in his heart will not enter Jannah. So the companion replied to Rasulullah ﷺ, Ya Rasulullah, but we all love to dress nicely and to have nice shoes. The Prophet ﷺ said, I'm not referring to that. He said, pride, he said, Allah is beautiful and He loves beauty. But pride and arrogance are two things. One, rejecting the truth, having pride and arrogance over Allah, over His rulings. Is that haram? Come on, man, we're in the 21st century, you still. And the second is, which, I don't want to, the amount of people, man. The second characteristic of that pride and arrogant person who never enter Jannah is belittling or degrading other people, looking down at them. Remember that who do you think you are statement? Or when someone does something, do you know who I am? Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakeel. You know, we have cases right now of people whose lives are destroyed, lost their job, lost their house, the relationship between them and their wives, 2, 3, 4 kids sometimes in between. Like the wife's reaching out for the final olive branch, and then that's it, after that she's gone, her and the kids. 70 to 80 pills a day. If that's not an addiction, I don't know what is. 70 to 80 pills, most of them, 99% of them, prescription. Do you know why he will never receive help? You know why he'll never get better? Because he's too proud and arrogant to even accept he has a problem. You try to sit down and speak with him, no, I don't have a problem, I've got it under control. The Prophet ﷺ said 2 types of people will never learn. One is the shy person, because he'll never ask a question. And 2 is the proud and arrogant one, because he's too proud to ask or too proud to accept advice. You know that advice, the reminder where the Prophet ﷺ linked, Allah Azza wa Jalla linked that reminder to Iman, as in if you don't benefit from the reminder, your Iman is lacking. ذَكِّرْ فَإِنَّ الذِّكْرَ تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Allah Azza wa Jalla linked benefiting from a reminder to Iman. Today you woke up to someone, you tell him something, you're trying to teach me my deen now. Allahu Akbar. You're trying to teach me my deen now. Or they roll their eyes. Back in the days, you used to walk up to someone and tell him your son did 1, 2, 3. He'll say, thank you, you helped me find out that he's doing something wrong, to stop it before it gets worse. With my own eyes once, I saw a kid in the street do something really, really bad. This was in Lebanon. It was really bad. I can't remember what it was. He slapped the old man. I don't know what he did. He did something big. All of a sudden you hear someone scream from the 6th ayah. Someone crosses the road and he shouts at this kid, or he stops him. All of a sudden you hear someone scream from the sixth floor of the building, and he comes running down. You could hear the footsteps running down the 6 stories. We thought he was coming down to tell off his son or to shout at him. He was shouting at the man who told him to stop. Who are you to tell him to stop? Allahu Akbar. How's our next generation going to grow up to be if that's the way you raise them? The Prophet ﷺ, he said, while a man was walking, dressed in clothes, admiring himself, his hair combed, walking haughtily, when Allah Azza wa Jal caused the earth to swallow him up, and now he'll continue to be ripped through the earth as a punishment till the Day of Judgment. My dear brothers in Islam, it's very, very dangerous. He who has an atom's weight of pride will not enter Jannah. And that pride was 2 things. 1, rejecting Allah Azza wa Jal, rejecting His orders, His laws, having pride and arrogance of Allah. And the second was belittling or looking down or degrading people. Now as for the kafir, let's leave him aside. He rejected the truth, let's leave him aside. What about the Muslim who lies about this being haram or not? Nah man, that's not haram. I asked Shaykh al-Fulani al-Falani, makes up names. You know what, leave him aside as well. He's a different category. What about the Muslim who's so-called religious bead, or he comes to the mosque, or is affiliated with the center, whatever it is, that downplays the haram? It's not that bad. There's difference of opinion. At least I'm not doing 1, 2, 3. Do you see? That's rejecting the truth. That could be a person who never enter Jannah. But do you see how it's even worse than the kafir? Because the kafir at least is not Muslim. This guy is causing confusion. He's supposedly religious, he's supposedly linked to a masjid. And he's telling you this. You start to doubt that it's haram. What about that sister you approach? Sister, that's wrong, that's haram, you can't do that. Who are you to tell me? Go look at yourself. Me? Wear the scarf? Allahu Akbar. Habibti, don't wear the scarf your whole life, it's a sin. But to mock the ruling of Allah, of the scarf, me scarf? Hasbi Allah na wakil. Today that pride and arrogance is what's causing our sisters not to take, to hold, to latch on to feminism like there's no tomorrow. You know the feminism that's full of kufr, that denies all the rulings in Islam of a husband and wife, of a father and a daughter, of a mother and her son and her husband, and what do you think they latch onto it? Wallahi, I remember the Shaykh telling me in one of his arbitrations between a husband and wife, wallahi, this, can you imagine in front of him, he's talking to them, he's trying to sort out the issue. The husband says something, the wife gets up off her seat and backhands the man and drops him on his back on the floor. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. You know that lady? That lady is what the Prophet, one of the people the Prophet ﷺ cursed. In Sahih Bukhari, Prophet ﷺ, La'ana Rasulullah. La'ana Rasulullah ﷺ cursed the man who acts like the woman and the woman who acts like the man. Well, I've got so many more examples, man. The envy and the jealousy that's out there. Isn't that out of pride and arrogance? Isn't that out of you thinking you deserve what that person has? Why is she married to him? Why does he have that business contract? I'm more qualified. I've got a bigger business. Finding faults in others. Never, ever, ever, ever being able to say anything good about someone. Because you always think you're better. Or wanting special treatment. How much is it for me? Habibi, I don't even know you. What do you mean how much? This is the price. Well, that's my spot. I'm supposed to park there. I donate this much. I'm supposed to receive 1, 2, 3. If Forgive me for something so petty, but even something as simple as pushing in line. Why do you think someone pushes in line? Hello, don't get me wrong, if there's an emergency and he rushed, alright. But just generally, if that person generally pushes in line, why does he push in line? Isn't it because he thinks he's better than you? Isn't it because he thinks he's more important than you? If he thought he was equal to you, he'd wait in line just like you. Pride and arrogance, my dear brothers in Islam, is destroying the unity in this ummah, the core principle of Islam. There's a hadith that we've mentioned before that some people use, but their understanding is very shallow of that hadith. The hadith of when the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever drags out his garment, his lower garment, onto the floor in pride, in arrogance, in vanity, this person, Allah will not even look at him in the akhirah. Allah will not even look at him in the akhirah, let alone receive any mercy. So Abu Bakr jumped up, radiallahu anhu, Ya Rasulullah, I'm a skinny man, every time I tie on it, it slips down again. The Prophet ﷺ literally responded, Ya Abu Bakr, you are not one of those who do it out of vanity, out of pride and arrogance. Yani the Prophet ﷺ is showing us that the condition there is not your abaya touching the floor. It's anything that you wear to distinguish yourself out of pride and arrogance as better than others. Allah Azza wa Jal won't even look at you on that day. Let's not be shallow and think it's referring to my abaya or my pants, please. My dear brothers in Islam, anything that we wear, you know that $50,000 Rolex, why? $100,000 Rolex, why? Tell me please why? You know what, I'll give it to you. If it's out of personal preference, Habibi, wear it as much as you want. But generally it's out of pride and arrogance to show that I've got a Rolex. That's what the West does it. That's how they advertise it. That's how they advertise the Rolex. Those sisters who, we've heard the arguments between each other. Why is arguing? She will only wear a abaya or a jalbab from a certain company, a certain name, a certain marka. Why? It's supposed to be the dress of Islam. Why? I just like it. You just like it, that's between you and Allah. But you know, if it's out of pride and arrogance, Allah won't even look at you in the akhirah. What about that brother who only drive European? They buy. They're nice cars, they're comfortable, they're this. Alright, but hold on, there's other cars in this country that are newer, better, more options and cheaper. Why only European? That's the way I like it. Alright. Between you and your Lord. If you are buying it out of personal preference, that's between you and your Lord. But you know, if you're buying it so it can be said about you that you're driving European, that you're better than others, Allah won't even look at you in the akhirah. I remember years ago, one of the brothers, he had a friend that was a security guard. He worked in one of those fancy malls. He goes, you should see the lines of brothers with beads and sisters in hijab waiting 3 hours to buy a $10,000 handbag. 3 hours in line to buy a $10,000 handbag. Why? What's the purpose? At a time, man, have you seen what's happening around the world? Have you seen how many millions are dying in Yemen because there's no food and there's no medicine? Have you seen a Syrian kid literally jump on the floor and put dirt in his mouth? Actual dirt, you know, dirt. He'll grab it and put it in his mouth. Why? Not because it's going to nourish him, just to stop that hunger for a minute. Eating dirt off the floor. You're standing 3 hours in line. It would have taken you 5 minutes to go to the Western Union, send him some money, and he'd eat for a month. With 10 grand, he'll eat for a year. Him and his family. Just so I can say I'm walking around with a Gucci handbag. But the condition is pride. Doing these things out of pride and arrogance, Allah Azza wa Jal won't even look at you in the akhirah. Pride and arrogance is a major sin. Pride and arrogance is a major sin. Anything you do out of pride and arrogance is a major sin. Why? Because Al-Kibriya is a name and attribute of Allah Azza wa Jal, and no one has the right to compete with Him for it. There's actually a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ where he mentions Allah Azza wa Jal, the Almighty, has said, pride is my cloak. Pride is my cloak. And greatness is my garment. Whoever competes with me in these two will be thrown into hellfire. This is Allah Azza wa Jal speaking. That's why the Prophet ﷺ in his ruku' and his sujood, he used to glorify the most great, Allah Azza wa Jal. And he used to say, Subhana dil jabarut wal malakut wal kibriya wal azama. Pride and greatness is only to Allah Azza wa Jal. Ask Allah Azza wa Jal to cleanse our hearts from any form of pride and arrogance. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فيا فوز المستغفرين أستغفر الله. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. My dear brothers in Islam, what are the causes of pride and arrogance? What are some of the causes of pride and arrogance? The first one is literally on this phone. The first one is literally on this phone. You know the selfie camera? You know, back in the days, if someone took a picture of himself, you'd laugh at him. You know, هذا شيء يفعله. You know, if you find him, put it on his desktop or on his homepage, you wipe the floor with him in front of the school, in front of his family. Today we've got a camera specifically called the selfie camera, so that my self-admiration and my self-conceitedness grows, so that I see within myself qualities or merits which make me better than others. You know the do you know who I am statement? Who says that? Isn't it the one who's self-conceited, the one who admires himself or thinks he's got qualities that makes him better than others? Now brother, what are you looking at? What do you mean, what am I looking at? Yani in the first place, for you to know that I looked at you, you must have also looked at me. I'm the best at what I do. I've got him wrapped around my finger, I've got her wrapped around my finger. I tell her jump, she tells me how high. I'm Arab, I'm white, I'm black, I'm this, I'm that. I've got this company, I work for this company, I've got this site, I've got this social media platform, I've got this many followers, I've got this many likes, I, me. Self-admiration. Being self-conceited. Allah gives you a favor, instead of thanking Him, you want to put others down and show that you're better. Envy and jealousy. Resentment, hating someone enough. You know what? Today it's gone beyond just wanting what he has. Today it's gone so much to say, I don't even want what he has, but I just want him not to have it. You know that, why does he have that contract? I'm bigger than him. I've got a bigger business than him. Why is she married to him? She's fat, she's tall, she's ugly. What does she have that I don't have? The exact same statement that Iblis la'natullah alayhi made, not since the beginning of time, before the earth was created in Jannah. I am from fire and he is from dirt, to Allah's face. I won't bow down to him. Stepmother treating her stepkids like trash and her own kids properly. Why? That envy, that jealousy, that hatred, that resentment in the heart. But they're both from your husband. They're both from this man, but those are from another mother who's died. They're orphans, so-called. All of the stories that you hear of some of the stepmothers, what they did to their kids, well, may Allah give them what they deserve. I remember an uncle. Can you imagine an uncle? An uncle getting upset, getting cut, getting dirty because his niece was dressed better than his daughter at Eid. An uncle. It's his own blood. He's her mahram. He's the person she turns to. In Islam, if the father dies, the maternal uncle takes over. Takes the position of the father. Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakeel. What about the business competitions? The what's it called? What do they call it? The quote wars. I know my brother went and quoted this much, so I go quote even less. The third is riya. Hypocrisy, insincerity. Allah gives someone a blessing and she now feels better than others, so he shows it off, wanting excessive admiration and praise. How many people do you know like that? That nobody that you grew up with, now he's got a bit of money. I'll see if why didn't he get back to me? Oh wallah brother, 300 calls yesterday, I couldn't. I'm wanted, I'm something now. I'll see if I'll make it there. I'm busy. Or that sister, as soon as she gets a bit of beauty, Allah gave him this money and gave her this beauty. What happens? We had a case that reached divorce. 10 years of punching on and kids in the middle. 10 years. You know, after he divorced her and after the iddah period was almost over and they actually gave it one last chance to see a sheikh. The sheikh got to the end of it, got to the bottom of it. It turned out that for those 10 years, that sister, because she was beautiful, she thought she was better than him. So she was always reacting from that status. And this is not Hasbi Allah ni'mal wakeel. Hasbi Allah ni'mal wakeel. When Allah gives us a blessing, we should thank Him for it. Not I built this, I made that, I was intelligent, I know the business, I know the game. I remember a sister who not goes to classes, who teaches deen. She goes at courses and in the houses. She goes and teaches deen. She introduced a couple together. Years later, she still wants praise and admiration. She still wants that level above them because she introduced them together and they eventually got married. You know what this lady's pride and arrogance got her to say? Do you know what level it reached? She literally said, if I didn't introduce them together, they wouldn't have got married. She's Allah now. Astaghfirullah al-Azim. She's in charge of nasib, of rizq, of who Allah marries to who. Instead of thanking Allah for using her for a doorway of good, and we know in Islam, if you unite two people or introduce a couple together, it's a massive reward. Instead of thanking Allah for using her for that, she thought, Hasbi Allah ni'mal wakeel. Why am I mentioning all this? My dear brothers in Islam, it's very simple. How can an ummah thrive? How can us as an ummah thrive? When everyone wants to do whatever they want, whenever they want, however they want, wallahi, even if it's haram, and no one has the right to say anything to them. No one has the right to advise them. They raise up children for the next generation that are trash, who will lie, cheat, steal, backbite, slander out of pride and arrogance just to stay on top, just to save face. Do you know pride and arrogance contradicts Iman? Imam El Ghaz, he says it is not possible for a person who has pride and arrogance to love for his brother what he loves for himself. And we know in Islam, the Prophet ﷺ said, you will not truly believe until you love for your brother what you love for yourself. It negates Iman. Pride and arrogance negates Iman. And the West, they know this very, very well. They know how much pride and arrogance we have. They study us constantly and consistently. They know that a brother won't speak to his own sister for 20 years because she forgot to invite him once. They know that we hate each other because of this pride and arrogance. And they've been playing on that disease in our hearts and pitting us against each other for centuries. Man, it's on the $100 bill, divide and conquer. Divide and conquer, this unity. Wallahi, this pride and arrogance has destroyed our ummah and we deserve it. Why? Because we earned it. We actually earned it. You know how you go, you work and you earn money? We actually earned this destruction. Why? Because we did the exact opposite what the Qur'an and Sunnah told us to do, and therefore we arrived at the exact opposite result. So what did the Qur'an and Sunnah tell us to do? They want us to have humility and humbleness and mercy towards one another, and Allah will give us victory and success. Instead, we chose pride and arrogance between one another, therefore Allah Azza wa Jal gave us failure and destruction. There's no one to blame but ourselves. Today's society has corrupted us to an extent where even with my own child, You know, my own child, where if he says uff to me, he goes to hellfire. My own child, if I act rough and tough with pride and arrogance over him, he won't even obey me anymore. How then with the general public? If I blocked someone outside, which is something wrong, don't get me wrong. I blocked someone outside. But when I came out and told me, brother, you blocked me in, I've got work, wallah, sorry, forgive me, I'll try not to do it again. Wouldn't that be solved? But if I went out there and I go, yeah, so what? Who are you? What's going to happen? And imagine that ripple effect for the entire ummah. Pride and arrogance is destroying us. We have to cleanse our hearts from that pride and arrogance. We have to come back to this Qur'an and the Sunnah, to the humility and the mercy within one another, so that the one in heavens can have mercy on us. I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to have mercy on us.
I wanna be in Jannah, 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 Jannah. Every Muslim dreams to be up in Jannah, 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 Jannah. A pious person's destiny. Inshallah in Jannah, Jannah, Jannah.